We're starting off with brutal honesty. First topic we're going to cover in the staff development plan. I needed to hear that too. Thank you. See, I should tell him thank you. Brutal honesty. So we just did evals, and I had the privilege of getting to sit in every single person's eval for everyone on staff and all residents, and I actually learned a lot through it. I'm going to tell you two things that I learned. First thing is we have amazing people here, amazing people that love Jesus, that love our church, that love the work that we're getting to do, and love the people that we're getting to work with. It was really, really encouraging. The other thing I learned is, and this is something I emailed to all supervisors right after the round of evals commenced, and we need to grow in being brutally honest with one another. First, let me define what I mean by brutal honesty. It's a little different than just being honest. Normal honesty is just truthfulness. It's being sincere. It's the best policy. Everybody knows that. Brutal honesty means choosing to be truthful and sincere, even if it means hurting your colleagues' feelings. That is a little harder, and as a team, we dance around it. And it's complex because we have so many different circles of relationships that we are encountering. However, in the employment circle, we are missing the purpose of our jobs if our primary concern is to protect one another's feelings. So when Tim Olson applied to the residency, he was turned down twice. But who's counting? He is. He's actually counting because I keep forgetting, and he keeps reminding me he was turned down twice. But he's fine. He's fine. Don't worry about him. He told me, we told him ultimately that there were maturity issues, and it just wouldn't be good for him to do the residency program. That was really hard for him to hear. I've talked to him about it since he's been back, and he told me he was really pissed at all of us because of it. He was pissed at his life group leader, Trey, and really mad at all of us as well for months. And so it's neat having him back as a church planning candidate to get to hear his perspective about it, because he says, looking back at it now, he remembers all of us and thinks of us all of us more fondly than even the friends at the time that were enabling his immaturity. And so the most loving thing to do for Tim was to be brutally honest with him. We could have danced around it. We didn't have to tell him that feedback, just as a way of protecting his feelings. But we cared more about truthfulness than hurting his feelings, and it actually served him incredibly well. So this is something that I think we need to grow in, both giving it and being ready to receive it. So everybody in the room, I want you to be ready to hear ways where you can improve. Everything you do can be improved. Every event that you plan can be improved. And it's not wrong when your boss says, hey, you missed something. It's actually wrong for bosses to not point those things out. Garrison, wherever you are, I talk to him about this all the time. There you are. How much do I love dirty dishes? I love dirty dishes. I love dirty dishes. Dirty dishes are problems and issues. I tell him, as a supervisor, I'm soap, and he's a sponge. And unless we have some dirty dishes, we cannot fulfill our roles to what we're designed to be, our relationship to be. For a soap to lather up a sponge without a reason, without a dish to wash, it kind of is pointless to do that. If there's nothing to be improved, no work to be done, no problem to solve, honestly, I cannot serve him well as his supervisor and his employee. If we've got nothing to do, literally it's just us massaging one another in the office, and nobody wants to see that, Garrison. So we love dirty dishes. We love problems. Correcting a problem is not shaming. I'm not shaming Garrison when I say this is an issue that needs to be improved. As supervisors, thanks, Adam, nice snaps. As supervisors, we are doing a disservice to our employees and what we are entrusted as leaders if we shy away from constructive feedback. So Jacob Kirby just accepted a staff position with Lexington, which is awesome. I don't think he gets that offer without people being brutally honest with him during his years as a resident. And he doesn't get that position unless he embraces that brutal honesty, receiving it well and letting it be a catalyst for growth and development in his work and in his life. He's done an amazing job getting to work with him. Bailey was just talking, unprovoked with me, a couple weeks ago, and has talked about how Kirby's just been operating at a whole nother level. And I'm really proud of him for exemplary performance in recent history, because I've gotten to work with him for, a couple years now. Specifically, the last 6 months, we've wanted to grow in the area of foresight for Kirby. And this is just the idea of being able to use his leadership gifting to be able to see things in advance and be proactive rather than reactive. I've told him this many times. He's very skilled, gifted, intelligent, and the problem is he was constantly pulling things off out of his back pocket in the final hour. There are so many staff events that he really didn't have his stuff together, but he pulled it off, and it was fine, or sometimes even great. But that skill would forever limit his effectiveness in his leadership. It's impossible to lead that way. People cannot follow you that way. So we started requiring a preview write-up that he needed to turn in 30 days in advance. This was basically a write-up for any staff event, all the details in advance. And the rule was, if it was late, I actually would fine him. It would be a $1 fine for every day that it was late. And I wouldn't accept Cash App or PayPal or Venmo. I wanted him to physically go get a $1 bill and bring it to me because I wanted him to be annoyed by it. And it's not because I wanted his money. I was just going to put it in a jar, and we'd buy cupcakes with it when he started hitting his deadlines. I wanted him to take this seriously. Hey, Kirby, welcome. I'm just bragging on you, kind of. He took it very seriously, and he was very faithful to the brutal honesty that was given to him, and Kirby grew as a result for it. So Kirby, just wave to everybody. In order for us to have a culture that embraces brutal honesty, we both have to get better at giving it and receiving it. So I've got some steps for you that I want to share with you to hopefully be helpful in soliciting and receiving brutal honesty, and for you to grow in giving it, or if you need to grow in both. So here's some things to think through when evaluating if you are receiving brutal honesty well. The first is trust your boss. Do you trust your boss is your boss for a reason? That God has actually placed them there, and if he wanted you to be the boss, you would be. Romans 13:1, let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authorities resists what God has appointed, and those who resist will incur judgment. Hebrews 13, obey your leaders and submit to them, for they are keeping watch over your soul as those who will give an account. Let them do this with joy and not with groaning, for that would be of no advantage to you. Listen, I'm not saying your boss can do no wrong, but I am saying that the roles are there for a reason, and to solicit and expect brutal honesty from them so that you would be better at your job. You will grow and be developed as a result of this interaction, and this is your boss's job to do so. That's their job. Second point is to accept responsibility. I think we as humans just don't do this naturally well. Some people in the universe have never actually said the words, I'm sorry. They've been taught to not say that, to be reluctant towards it. Jim Collins actually embraces the idea. Adam mentioned his book, Good to Great, a couple times last night. He says, whenever there is failure, you look in the mirror. And that was his embodiment of the ideal character that someone would have. He actually would say, whenever there's success, you look through the window. Whenever there's failure, you look in the mirror. So I want us, the people in this room, to not be so quick to blame extenuating circumstances. I want you to own what is yours. Don't immediately point to all the circumstances because it seems as though you're not receiving and being able to grow what's actually yours to grow in, because it is there. When a boss brings up a concern, an issue, a problem, a critique, how they brought it up to you actually isn't the appropriate response that you should immediately go to. I'm not saying they brought it up perfectly, but I'm saying if you messed up, you focus on the mess up. When you start refuting how something was said, that's you actually skipping the accepting responsibility stage and actually just ignoring it completely. That's just pragmatically what is going on. That is what is happening. And please hear me right. I'm not saying you can't bring up concerns with your boss, but I am saying when you bring it up as a response to brutal honesty, you are skipping an important stage, and it's just a disservice to you. So at a different time, it's totally appropriate to bring up those concerns with humility, trusting that your boss is your boss for a reason, that God has appointed there, and then your concerns that are being brought up are welcomed and, wonderful, just not as a response to brutal honesty. When a problem arises, I want you to ask, what should I have done differently? And listen to me, I'm not talking to the person next to you. I want you to ask, when a problem arises, ask, what should I have done differently? Dude, that's what Steve did. That was his first instinct. Don't immediately go to why everyone else sucks. They may suck. They probably do. I'm just saying don't immediately go to that. I want you to own what's yours. I'm not asking you to stay there forever, but let's just start with that. And actually verbalize accepting responsibility. Say, I was wrong. I missed that. I see it now. I didn't see it before. It allows all the tension to be released from the room and allows us to be on the same page and grow together. Cool. Make sense? All right, last step. Rectify the issue. So fix what's wrong. But to me, most importantly, set up parameters around where you need to grow. I actually think coming up with a plan to ensure that you don't make similar mistakes in the future is not only appropriate, but required. It's necessary. I tell this to everybody that I work with. I've told this to Wes, Kelsey, anybody that I've gotten to work with in the past, Ryan. When mistakes happen, it's a trust killer. When mistakes happen twice, it's a trust killer. What I tell them all the time is, I'm expecting you to make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. What I'm asking you is to not make the same mistakes twice, because it's a trust killer. Your boss can no longer trust you. I care very much if you make the same mistakes twice. I don't care if you made the mistake once, because I'm expecting it. So that's how we rectify what was brought up. Make sense? All right, cool. For supervisors, here's some things to think through in giving constructive feedback. So go ahead and take a look at this. That's it. There you go. There are ways that you can soften the blow. And I want to, at some point, do a supervisor training where we can talk about how to lead with questions to gather all the information, how to bring humility to the honesty, how to communicate care for your employee just overtly. But at the end of the day, there's not always time to soften the blow. And that's just the reality of what it's like at moving at such a fast speed in the employee-boss circle. At times we're moving fast, and our need to be honest with one another is greater than our need to protect one another's feelings. And I'm just being honest at this. So at some point, you just need to be brutally honest, and that's it. There's no substitute for it. And when you do this, your employee actually should thank you. So when you say you've only done your job halfway, or you're falling short, or you need to start meeting my expectation in this, it just gives them an opportunity to improve. And that's why we all should say thank you when we receive brutal honesty. It's giving us what we need to keep our jobs. And not only keep our jobs, but excel in them. And that's what we all want. I was in every single person's eval. I know we have awesome people in this room with amazing gifts, amazing talents, amazing hearts, with extremely high capabilities. But in order to reach those capabilities, we have to embrace this idea and embrace it in our culture and not shy away from it. One day, if we were to fire someone because of performance, or honestly their role wouldn't be a good fit, I would hope that their response on that day was, man, you guys showed me the issues time and time again, and you were so clear on it. You gave me a million chances to grow. And it still would be a hard day, but it's way better than being blindsided and it's on their way out. Screw you, Chris, you're cool, screw you, and that's what would happen. Your job as the boss is to be brutally honest, and our need to be honest with one another is greater than our need to protect one another's feelings. You can just ask Tim, right, Tim? Thanks for head nodding and working with me. Tell Garrison how to do that a little bit better.